Another knife review coming your way. Um, this is one I've actually had for a while, and I just realized as I was just looking around for more content, any other things I could review that people might be interested in, and I realized, you know what? I've had this knife for over a year, and I have never done a review. So first of all, get it out of the way. Hit like and subscribe if you like this stuff. Leave a comment. Appreciate it. But here's what we're going to talk about now. So this is by Boker. This is an automatic, so it's a side opening, out the side type of automatic. It is called the Burnley Kihon, not sure, Kihon. I'll put a link to Blade HQ where it was purchased from in the description. But the specs on it: overall length 7 3/4. It's got a 3 1/4 inch blade length. Blade width is 1.125. No, that can't be right. That's a typo. It should be 0.125. I'm looking at the specs on Blade HQ. That is not a 1 1/8 inch wide blade, clearly. I mean, it may be that way, but not that way. The new ones are made with D2. This is the original run, so this is actually made with AUS 8. It is a drop point. We've got a stone wash and flat grind, plain edge, no serrations, anything like that. It is a button actuation and a button lock. And it's got aluminum handles. So what Boker's known for typically, as far as automatics, are the Kalashnikovs, the AK-47 series, stuff like that. Those typically, I think they have aluminum handled ones, but a lot of them have, plastic. It's about that size. So this is kind of like a variation of that. So Burnley designed this one, gave it nice aluminum scales, but it still has that AK-47 look of their other models, not the rifle, obviously. Only has one standoff back here, but being that it is pretty beefy, pretty thick aluminum scales, there really isn't any noticeable flex in there. A little bit of jimping on the back. Really nice slicer. I mean, it's a thin blade. It's got a lot of belly to it. Very sharp point. So it's actually a really good slicer. And as I'm talking, I'll grab a slice of paper here. I know people say, "Why do you say slice? Paper comes in sheets." Yeah, it also comes in slices. I prefer to think of paper coming in slices. We'll do a sharpness test in a moment. Throw that up there. It's really nice. The weight on it, it actually does not give the weight here. If I had to guess between the aluminum and that, it feels like it's about 3.5, 3 3/4 ounces, somewhere right in that range, just under 4. So it is a very lightweight knife. Things I like about it, like the look, like the fast opening, how fast it fires. It does. Now, when I first got it, and actually I was watching some other videos today, and they didn't seem to be having problems with it. But mine, it would sometimes kind of stick. So I think at one point when I first got it, I had adjusted the pivot, and this may be on me, although I am going to point out a flaw in the design. When I tightened it, I didn't have blue Loctite, I used red. So I went to adjust it because I wanted to take it apart because it was kind of sticking. And at first, my assumption was that without any standoffs back here, what was happening was if you grip the knife and you push the button, you adjust the pivot here, which basically pinches everything together. And that can determine how fast and how easy your knife blade flies out. And it's always a balancing act with these types of knives, is to have it just tight enough that there is no blade play, but not so tight that it starts to clamp the blade and slows down the action to where it starts sticking. You want it to be a nice, smooth, free-floating or free swinging blade. And so I went to adjust it to see if that was the problem, and I couldn't get the red Loctite. Apparently that thing is, this thing's done. It's tightened in there. The problem here is that this piece doesn't seem to be keyed. So as I turn this turns. Unlike the standoff here where you can get another Torx bit on the other side and hold it in place and then loosen that side, this does not have that. This piece spins in there, and it's smooth. There's no, unless I wanted to get a Dremel and cut a slat in there and then use a screwdriver, which would ruin it aesthetically, I'd have to then probably replace it and see if maybe that's something I'll have to do is after I figure out if I can order that part. from them. Maybe then I can go ahead and score that or do something to be able to grip it, take it out, clean threads, use blue Loctite. But that's on me. But it did point out the fact that that piece spins freely. There's nothing locking it in place. Like a lot of times it's a circle with a flat side and it's keyed and it locks in place so that you can then tighten it up. Doesn't exist here. When you spin this, I can't hold that. I can't put enough pressure to keep that smooth circle from spinning. So that's on me. But in any case, I couldn't get it apart. So I was like, well, let me just put a drop of oil down there. So I keep a little tube here of oil. I don't know if it's Mobil 1 or Shell Rotella, whatever goes on my motorcycle. I figure if it holds up to, 15, 16,000 RPMs inside a motor and stuff like that, it'll probably be good on guns and knives. So I throw some of that in a bottle. So I put a drop down in there. And now it fires great every time. So I don't like that one attribute, although it wouldn't be a problem had I not used red Loctite, so I guess I'll have to own that. The only other thing I can say about it is I'm always feel weird about carrying. Well, first of all, let's get a size comparison on the way. So here's your PM2. I know I gave you the specs, but sometimes it doesn't put it into scale. So it's a little smaller than a PM2, but bigger than a PM3. Got a Kershaw blur. So it kind of sits right in there. I can get a whole hand on it. I can get a full grip. If I want to use a reverse grip, again, it conforms to your thumb, so it's nice and comfortable. No real hot spots. They did a good job on this, on the pocket clip. It's not too obtrusive, so it's not a high ride. It's not a reverse pocket carry. You can't change it to the other side for a lefty. So it kind of is what it is. But what I'll tell you the one thing, and it's not about this knife, it's just kind of in general a little bit, is I am always leery of this going off in my pocket. If I were leaning against, let's say I'm leaning over the work table trying to reach something, and that were to get pushed, excuse me folks, it's the middle of freaking allergy season here in Georgia, so my allergies are going crazy. Sorry about that. I'm always leery about these firing in the pocket. Now, I don't know how much it happens. This can be completely unfounded. Also, you may notice my camera shaking because they're doing construction near my house. The horse farm behind our house, they parsed out plots of it and they're building houses over there, so they got some heavy machinery. I keep thinking, what the hell is my house shaking? And I just noticed my camera doing that. I hear a boom over there and then my camera shakes. So again, apologies. I'll ask them to stop next time I make a video because it is inconvenient to me. Don't think they'll listen. But I'm always leery about that firing in my pocket. Now, it would be firing away, so if it did open a little bit within the confines of the pocket, it probably wouldn't cut me. It's not like it's going this way, where if that thing swings open, now I'm basically shish kebabbing one of my balls. Because that's no fun. Not that I don't want to have kids or anything like that. I don't want to have kids. I've never had kids that I'm aware of. So that's not the concern, but, I don't want to skewer a testicle. That's never fun. And so, I know people are going to say, oh, I've had one for years. I understand that. In me, it's more of just a mental thing. The other thing is I always question the need for a blade that swings out. I mean, when you talk about like automatics, I love automatics. So I've got two of my heretics. I've got the Manticore X with their stone-washed or apocalyptic, whatever it's called, in their reflex design, which I really love. I love this knife. And then I've also got one of their clerics with a Tonto, which has the button on the side, which is kind of interesting and different. But when you look at, an automatic, these are never stored under tension. Now, there are knives where you have to pull and it pulls the blade back in, and that blade is under spring tension. And usually there's a lock you want to enable when it's in your pocket, because if you were to lean against something or hit the button or it catches on something. But here, the blade is at rest. There's no spring tension right now. I'm adding the tension by, see that this wants to snap back. I'm adding spring tension. Right now, the blade's just sitting there. It's inert. Even if you released it, it won't go anywhere. It's just going to flop around. I'm adding the pressure by building spring pressure, building spring tension, and then as soon as it reaches a certain point, it overcomes the detent, a little latch opens up, and that pressure that I'm building by pushing against that spring then fires it. Right now, the blade isn't out there under spring tension. It's locked in place by a bar. There's no way for it to retract until I start to put pressure, and then it unlocks it once that pressure is built up, and then that the pressure of the spring being compressed from here to here is what shoots the blade in. While this is a side-mounted button, it's the same thing. There's no way for this to go off in your pocket. You'd have to really push that button the whole way forward, which just isn't all that likely. And even if it does, let's just take a piece of paper here. It's not like we're talking about putting it up against something. If that was in my pocket, it made a little hole, but it actually stopped it. If you look right now, the blade is, they say it's off track. It's not like it's off track and you've broken it. The blade, normally, this is what I'm saying, how the blade's never under tension, only when it's locked in position and you're pushing against it. So the spring is connected to the blade. I'm pushing the spring in the opposite direction. So in this direction, I'm stretching that spring, and then it unlocks it, and that stretched spring wants to pull, hit the camera, and pull that up. So right now, just hitting a sheet of paper, well, it did poke a hole in it, and it would prick your skin and give you a little, little cut, but it wouldn't like jam into your hand or do any serious damage or anything. It would just knock it off track. A simple one sheet of notebook paper was sufficient to do that. You can reset it just by pulling it. If you listen close, you hear that click. Now it's locked back into position, but it's not under any tension. It's just sitting there. These are under pressure. When you release it, you push that button, all that spring tension that it's been under the whole time it's been sitting in your pocket, fires that open. Right now, if I push the button, I unlock it, that spring is pushing against it. See what happens? That is always under pressure. So you push it, now it's under a bunch of pressure, and then it locks into position, and if anything pushes that thing's flying out. So that's my only hesitation with that knife. While we got the paper out, nice sharp blade. What did I do? Yeah, I might need to straighten the edge up. Maybe I'm hitting a certain part of the blade. Overall, it feels pretty sharp. I mean, it's pretty sharp. But like a lot of knives, especially when you're down in the $50 range, of which this is, it cuts well enough. I could probably just run that over a ceramic rod real quick. I'm sure one of the edges is probably, depending on the angle I'm doing the slice, I'm sure the edge isn't perfectly straight. It might be just cocked to one side or the other, and that'll tune that up. But in any case, fairly sharp out of the box. But yeah, so, and so that's when I look at these things and I go, do these kind of knives make sense? Because if you want a fast opening knife, something like the Blur, no way for this to go off in your pocket, even if it slightly opens. I mean, it's not like it's like nothing else. I mean, it's not going to do anything. But when you look how fast the Blur opens, that's almost as fast as that. So, automatic knives, to me, I don't think in today's world make a whole lot of sense. And then you run into the legalities in certain states where here, this is how dumb knife laws are. They're almost as dumb and retarded as gun laws. When you look at this, that knife opens like that with one hand. This knife opens like that with one hand. There's very little difference in the speed here. I mean, they're both pretty much instant. So you're talking about a fraction of a second, you do something with your thumb. In this case, I push a button. That makes it bad and illegal in a lot of states. In this case, it doesn't have a button. It has a thumb stud. Either way, I'm holding the knife with one hand. I'm taking my thumb and I'm making a simple movement and it flicks open. To make it even more stupid, so in a lot of states, most states, this is legal. Half the states, this is illegal. This is like an assault knife or whatever. But the idiocy here is that I can take this, which has nothing. Just a free, and I can just take my thumb and look, almost as fast. I mean, I've got my Lion steel that I've got in my pocket right now. Manual flipper, no springs. So it makes no sense to me. If you're going to have an automatic knife, to me, the only ones I think personally that make a lot of sense are the out the fronts. These are something different. It doesn't swing. They're inherently safer because there's no way for it to open or deploy really in your pocket. And it's just kind of cool. But when it comes to these, this knife is not any faster, really, than any of these, either an assisted or these manuals. One's a thumb flick, and the other one is a flipper. But these ones are completely manual. This one's partially manual. This one's automatic. So you're not getting any benefit to having this. You're getting a potential for it may be minimal, but you're getting a little bit of risk. And you're running into legalities in certain states for no real mechanical advantage. So for me, this was a gift. My wife gave this to me. I actually like the design a lot, and I'm okay with a side opening. But I think in general, if you want a side opening knife, I think it's a great choice. In that price range, especially to get, AUS 8 or now it's D2, but actual machined aluminum, not plastic. I mean, that's kind of cool. That's definitely an automatic that's punching above its weight class for 49, what is it? 49.95 on Blade HQ right now. But unless you just like that type of design and stuff, or if you're in states where they crack down on things like that, then you get the same result out of these. So to me, if I'm going to buy automatics going forward, if I even get automatics, it's going to be out the front. It's going to be a Microtech, Vespa, Heretics, Hogue, something like that. There's some cheaper ones that I might pick up. Boker actually has one for around 110 bucks. That actually is kind of cool for the money. But overall, I'm positive on it. Would I buy another one or another side opening automatic? Probably not. Springs wear out. There's no real benefit. I mean, this thing will last me forever, and it's just as fast opening it one-handed, and it's 50 state legal, and I'm assuming that unless the state has a rule on blade length or something like that. But barring and if it was, you could just get the paramilitary 3 that would be of the size that would be fine. But as far as the opening mechanisms and legality, this is 50 state legal. This is 50 state legal. I believe the Kershaws are. Now, there may be 1 or 2 states that have laws against assisted, but it's stupid. They all open one-handed. They all open quickly. One is not more inherently dangerous than the other. If you can open the knife with one hand, I don't know why that makes it less dangerous. I guess they're thinking, well, you could be holding someone and open it with the other hand. Well, yeah, I could also be trapped in something to where this hand isn't available and I need to cut myself loose. I'm in the woods, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I need to cut, my jacket. My arm got caught in something and it's wedged in the jack or something in the car I'm working on, and I can't get my arm out and I need to cut that piece off to untangle myself, and I need a one-handed knife. There's lots of practical advantages of having a single-handed opening knife. Why this one is illegal in some states, but this one's perfectly legal, doesn't make any sense. They all open one-handed. And once it's open, what does it matter? It's a 3.5-inch blade versus a 3.5-inch blade. Is this one going to cut you more or deeper than that one? Of course not. It's a piece of steel. This is going to stab just as deep. This is going to cut just as well. Same as this. Same as this. There's no freaking difference mechanically as far as lethality. But people who don't know anything about knives, just as we have politicians that don't know anything about guns. They ban certain guns because, well, it looks scary. I saw it in a movie, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, fired 1,000,000 rounds with one trigger pull and got 99 headshots and saved the day. So we don't want people having that. Okay. Dumbasses. So that's my thoughts on this. It's a really nice design. I really like that it's stabby. It's a kind of a sort of a low profile blade. You can choke up on it even though you don't have a finger choil. The way it curves back at you, it really does kind of lend itself to getting in and doing some really fine cuts. And it's a great little slicer. It's got a really nice curve, really nice stabby point. Pocket clip's okay. Nothing to write home about. It's okay. But I do like the aluminum handles. The deployment, now that I added a drop of oil in there, is wicked fast and smooth. It's great. So for 50 bucks, if you like this type of knife, and you look at the Kalashnikovs and you're like, plastic handle, it's kind of cheap, pay the extra 10 bucks. Get the Burnley Kihon. Got a nice aluminum handle, a lot more durable, a lot more tough, sturdy. It fits the bill. Hard to beat. That's what I got. I've had this for a little over a year. Maybe in 2 years. I don't even remember. I had a list of things. Damn, my camera is going crazy. I don't know what they're doing over there, but they are like the whole house is shaking. So, I love this knife, this new one. This thing is just so big and satisfying. It's just such a beefy knife. But man, I love my Heretics. Microtechs are awesome, and I'm not digging on them. So Microtech fanboys, don't start going, I can't believe it. Downvote, downvote. Just, again, don't be that guy. But Heretics just got some neat designs. I love that they're using the same materials, and I don't even know, they could be made at the same factory. I don't know what Anthony Jr.'s doing, but The Microtechs are really nice. I love Microtechs, but there's something cool about that design. I love the shape of the blade. It just feels a little different. Heretic's doing a good job. Like the pocket clip's kind of cool. This one's even weirder. Kind of big, kind of does stand out and attract attention. But, you know, if you're carrying that kind of knife, you probably don't care about it. But really neat. Love the Heretics. But when I'm going for automatics, that tends to be what I'm going for. This, I will probably never get another side opening automatic. To me, there's not a lot of benefit. I can get the same fast opening out of these. I don't have to worry about a spring ever breaking. And if I'm traveling or going somewhere, I don't have to go to a state and go, uh-oh, didn't realize these are illegal. You know, I can carry these anywhere. So love the knife. If you like it, if you like that type of knife, I say go for it. It's phenomenal. For $50, man, very cool blade.